Who have you ever stopped for just 1 minute and asked yourself a question so deep that it makes everything else seem meaningless? Not what do I want, or what should I do with my life, but something much bigger. Asterisk, asterisk, who am I? Really? Asterisk, asterisk. Think about it for a moment. If tomorrow every memory you have suddenly disappeared, would you still be the same person? If your name changed? If your family forgot you? If your job vanished? If your achievements were erased? If nobody recognized your face, would you still exist? We spend our entire lives building an identity around our name, our career, our relationships, our beliefs, and our memories. But what if none of those things are actually who we are? What if your identity is not something you discovered, but something your brain quietly invented over thousands of days? And what if the person you believe yourself to be has been changing every single moment without you ever noticing? Tonight, we're going to explore one of the deepest mysteries in psychology and neuroscience. Not the mystery of the universe, but the mystery living inside your own mind. Because by the end of this video, you may never answer the question, who am I, the same way again. Every morning you wake up with a quiet certainty that you are the same person who fell asleep the night before. You don't question it. You simply continue your life as if the person called you has remained completely unchanged. But that feeling is stranger than it seems. Throughout your life, your body has been changing every second. Cells die, and new ones replace them. Your beliefs evolve. Your habits shift. Your fears appear and disappear. The people around you change. Even your dreams for the future are different from what they were 5 or 10 years ago. Yet despite all these changes, you still look in the mirror and say, this is me. Why? Where does that feeling come from? Answer isn't as simple as most people imagine. Scientists have searched the brain for a single place where the self exists, but they never found one. There's no tiny room inside your brain where your identity lives. No single group of neurons carries the label you. Instead, your sense of self is created by billions of neurons working together every moment. Every memory you've kept, every emotion you've felt, every lesson you've learned, every relationship you've built, every success you've celebrated, and every mistake you've regretted becomes another piece of a story. Slowly, almost invisibly, that story becomes the person you believe yourself to be. But here's where things become fascinating. Stories can change. They can be edited. They can be forgotten. They can even be rewritten without us realizing it. Imagine reading the same novel every year, except someone secretly changes a few pages each time. One sentence disappears. Another is added. A character behaves slightly differently. Years later, you would still recognize the story, but it wouldn't be exactly the same story you first read. It updates emotions. It blends old experiences with new ones. In other words, every memory you recall becomes a slightly different version of itself. And if your memories slowly change over time, then the person built from those memories changes as well. This raises one of the most unsettling questions in psychology. If your memories are constantly evolving, your beliefs are changing, and your personality is never completely fixed, then who exactly is the real you? Perhaps the answer is that there has never been one permanent version of you at all. Perhaps identity is not something we discover. Perhaps it is something we create. The story your brain creates about who you are doesn't begin when you become an adult. It begins the moment you enter the world. As children, we know almost nothing about ourselves. We don't know whether we're brave or shy, intelligent or ordinary, lovable or unwanted. So where does that first identity come from? Surprisingly, it comes from other people. The words spoken by parents, teachers, friends, and even strangers slowly become the voice inside our own minds. A child who repeatedly hears, "You're so smart," often grows into someone who believes intelligence is part of their identity. A child constantly told, "You're difficult," may carry that label for decades. First, these are only words. But the brain has an incredible ability to turn repeated experiences into permanent beliefs. Eventually, those beliefs stop sounding like opinions from others and start sounding like undeniable truths. This happens because the human brain is designed to search for patterns. It constantly asks one silent question: who am I? Every experience becomes another clue. If someone succeeds several times, the brain quietly writes, "I am capable." If someone experiences repeated rejection, it may write, "I am not enough." The frightening part is that the brain rarely asks whether these conclusions are actually true. It only asks whether they fit the story it has been building. Once a belief becomes part of your identity, your brain begins protecting it. It notices information that supports it and quietly ignores information that challenges it. Psychologists call this asterisk confirmation bias, but in everyday life, it feels like reality itself. A confident person notices opportunities. An insecure person notices criticism. Both are looking at the same world. Yet each sees something completely different because their identity acts like a filter over reality. This is why changing your life often feels so difficult. Most people believe they struggle because changing habits is hard. In reality, changing habits is only part of the challenge. The deeper struggle is changing the identity attached to those habits. Imagine someone who has believed for 20 years, "I'm lazy." Even after waking up early for weeks, exercising every day, and becoming productive. One small mistake can make them whisper, "See? This is who I really am." Their actions changed, but their identity didn't. The old story keeps pulling them back because the brain prefers familiarity over uncertainty. Even painful identities can feel strangely comfortable simply because they've existed for so long.
The same thing happens in relationships. Some people believe they are unlovable. Others believe they must always please everyone to deserve affection. These beliefs often begin in childhood, yet they continue shaping adult decisions without ever being questioned. We choose careers, friendships, partners, and even dreams that match the identity our brain already accepts. It's almost as if the brain would rather remain consistent than become free. We think we're making choices based on logic, but often we're simply acting out a story we've been telling ourselves for years. And perhaps the most fascinating part is that your brain doesn't just remember your past. It predicts your future based on the identity it has built. If you believe success belongs to you, your brain searches for opportunities. If you believe failure defines you, it searches for reasons to give up before you even begin. The future you imagine is often less about reality and more about the person you believe yourself to be. In other words, your identity doesn't simply describe your life. It quietly directs it. But if identity can be built, can it also be rebuilt? If the brain learned one story about who you are, could it learn another? That question may be one of the most important questions any human being can ask, because if the answer is yes, then perhaps your past has never been your prison, or perhaps it has only been the first draft of a story that is still being written. There is one final truth about identity that most people never realize. The person you believe you are today is not the person you were 10 years ago, and it will not be the person you become 10 years from now. Yet your brain desperately tries to convince you that your identity is fixed. It whispers, "This is just who I am." People never change. "I've always been like this." But neuroscience tells a completely different story. The human brain possesses an extraordinary ability known as neuroplasticity, the ability to reorganize, adapt, and create new neural connections throughout life. Every new experience, every habit you repeat, every skill you learn, every book you read, every meaningful conversation you have, and every challenge you overcome physically changes your brain. This means that your identity is not carved into stone. It is written in pencil, and every single day you hold the eraser. Think about someone learning to play the piano for the very first time. At first, every movement feels awkward.
Their fingers hesitate. Their brain struggles to coordinate simple notes. But after months of practice, those same movements become effortless. The brain has literally rewired itself. The same process happens with confidence, courage, kindness, discipline, and even happiness. None of these qualities are permanent gifts that only a few lucky people are born with. They are patterns the brain strengthens through repetition. Every action you repeat becomes another vote for the person you are becoming. Without realizing it, you are constantly teaching your brain who you believe you are. This is why your daily choices matter far more than dramatic moments. Many people wait for one life-changing event to transform them forever. They believe confidence will suddenly appear after success, or happiness will arrive once everything becomes perfect. But the brain doesn't change because of one extraordinary moment. It changes because of thousands of ordinary moments repeated over time. Every morning you choose courage over fear, honesty over comfort, growth over excuses, or curiosity over judgment. Your brain quietly updates your identity. These changes may feel invisible today, but years later they become the person staring back at you in the mirror. Perhaps the greatest mistake people make is believing every thought their brain produces. Thoughts feel personal because they happen inside your own mind, but that doesn't automatically make them true. Your brain generates thousands of thoughts every day. Some are useful, some are irrational. Some are shaped by childhood experiences that no longer reflect your present life. Yet many people accept every thought as absolute truth, without ever questioning it. Imagine believing every advertisement you ever saw on television. It would sound absurd. Yet countless people believe every negative sentence their own brain whispers about them. I'm not good enough. I'll never change. I'm destined to fail. These are not facts. They are stories, and stories can always be rewritten. Imagine standing beside a river. Every thought you have is like a leaf floating on the water. Most people jump into the river and let every leaf carry them away. But awareness allows you to stand on the riverbank instead. You notice each thought passing by without becoming trapped inside it. Fear appears, then disappears. Doubt appears, then disappears. Confidence appears, then disappears. The observer remains. And perhaps that observer, the silent awareness behind every thought, is closer to your true self than any identity your brain has ever created.